This Multicon is great. It's not only celebrating fandoms, but also giving back to the community. How does it feel to be a part of something that's celebrating fandoms, but also a part of the Wildfire LA relief?
Awesome. I mean, I believe I was approached at the Saturn Awards about doing this, and I was like, absolutely, I'll do this, because I have been trying to do as much as I possibly could. Mark Duplass has been doing a ton, and he had put out a call for Nintendo Switches, and I was like, I'm sending one to your house right now. And I had been in contact with a family that I lost contact with, and they had an autistic teenager and who lost their noise-canceling headphones in the fire. And so David actually dropped off some Beats Studio Pro to this family today on their way to the LA Zoo. Just, I'm trying to do as much to help out as possible, feeling helpless kind of overall because the situation is so dire and so devastating. But I was so stoked to be able to lend my time and energy to an effort like this, and United Way is great. You
and David, real life heroes, so we appreciate that. Listen, I got to ask about Superman Lois, because season 4 was incredible. You guys absolutely stuck the landing, and it tied up everybody's story in such a beautiful way. But if Jonathan and Jordan were to carry on, where would you like to see them go?
It'd be interesting to see them, having to figure out what it's like, the way that Jonathan got his powers all at once, whether that would cause any friction with the boys going forward. And, given their age, college, what would college be like for them? And now, obviously, they're public figures because they were sort of outed, so to speak, as superheroes. But, never say never. Everyone's always saying, could it be revived in some way? And I'm like, at the end of the day, it's a superhero show. Anything could happen. But again, I think the way we finished the series, I'm proud of how Todd and Brent and the writers, as you said, stuck the landing, especially given the fact that we were dealing with budget cuts and cast cuts.
Listen, I'm a Youngblood guy. I like me some Youngblood. I like Shaft, I Die Hard. They're all my guys. But you're finally bringing a new print to fans. What made it the right time to return to that franchise?
Well, it's 33 years ago in just a few weeks that we launched Image Comics, so it's always spring, and this time of year always brings me back. I count at 30, 31, 32, 33. So, and now this is all I'm doing. All I'm doing is Youngblood. So, I produced the print in order to kind of get people focused and reminded of what Youngblood meant to people.
Yes. Now, look, what are the chances we ever get a Youngblood live action?
So we're meeting with people who, if I told you their names, they would stagger you. Yeah, no. It's incredible. When we put the announcement out that we're bringing it back, we got a deluge of interest, and because people grew up loving Youngblood, and so it's we're in some interesting talks with a lot of great, talented people, and we have some decisions to make, but that is the intent.
And Invincible has taken off in comics and animated form. Did you ever think that it would resonate so deeply with an audience like that?
I mean, you always hope, you hope people are going to respond to what you're doing and find what you're doing and enjoy what you're doing, but, you never know. So it did come as a bit of a surprise. I don't know, when we were working on the first season, we really felt strongly about these characters and really, loved this world. And for me, having done the comic for 16 years, getting back into it, super exciting. But we didn't know that the response was going to be this huge. So it really kind of took us, by surprise.
Any update on the Invincible live action?
No.
No update. Fair enough. Hey, I had to ask. Sitting back now that the Walking Dead kind of run is over, is there anything you would have done differently in the comics?
No, not at all. I mean, it all worked out. So I wouldn't change a thing for fear it might not work.
Clerks turns 30 this year. Looking back, did you ever think it would become such a cultural phenomenon?
Not in a million years. It was designed as a calling card movie. Hey man, maybe if somebody sees this, they'll give us some money to make the next one, which I guess turned out to be true. But it also became honestly the defining moment of my career. It still works 31 years later, and that's not because of anything I did, is because everyone still hates going to work. That hasn't fucking changed. That will never change. So couldn't have predicted it. Wasn't designed to go this far. Can't believe how much fucking gas is in the tank. We're gonna start a new Jay and Silent Bob movie this year, and they're a Cheech and Chong ripoff. How the fuck does it go that far? But diligence, and along the way we picked up a very loyal fan base that has grown up with us and introduced us to their kids as well. So hopefully I get to play for a few more years, then drop dead, going out of this best of all perfect worlds, doing this shit.
Hey, we don't want you dying because you're a legend, but can you give us an update on Mallrats 2?
Nothing. Universal does not seem to know that they own the movie nor care. They got bigger fish to fry. Every time I bring it in, they're like, this is neither Fast nor Furious. So I don't know that it's ever going to happen. But I dream.
Look, I know you're a big superhero fan and comic book fan like I am, and James Gunn is taking over DC with the DCU. What does he need to do to stick the landing for Superman?
He just needs to be James Gunn. He's such an artful storyteller. He's absolutely one of the best of us. He needs to prove nothing to anybody, considering he's made 3 unbelievably wonderful films out of Guardians. Like one of the worst comic books I ever read in my life. And with all due respect, I'm sure whoever wrote that, every time I say that, they're like, fuck you. You did yoga hoses. Fair enough. I'm not saying I've ever done anything better, but I remember reading that comic book, and I remember years later when they were like, we're doing that. I was like, why? Why would you do that? And then you see that movie. It's one of the best Marvel movies ever made, if not one of the finest motion pictures. Just fun. Like, it defines what cinema should be. This is a man who knows how to do that. He had his training, with the best, Lloyd Kaufman and Troma Studios. James, we all love Troma. James has paid his dues, done storytelling across the studio system. Like, he's saying his first dance with Warner Brothers, Scooby-Doo Kid. Yes. He wrote those scripts. So I don't know. Based on the trailer I've seen, you got me.
Now you're on the DC official podcast,
yes,
which is absolutely incredible. What does Superman need to do to stick the landing?
So I think what Superman needs to do is separate itself from what the stigma of Superman is while being authentic to the character. And that's a fine line, because the character himself is this beautiful, altruistic, larger-than-life Boy Scout, and that's what a lot of people struggle with. So I think what it needs to do is be earnest and be sincere, but find a way to do it like Ted Lasso, where it is so warm and so loving that you find yourself against all odds rooting for the cheeriest thing you never could. And I think it takes a whole person to love Superman. I think there's a certain level of maturation a person needs to find in that character. And I hope that we heal some people and we heal what we love about this character by having this character be so true. Because I think there's a time and place for edgy characters, and there's a time and place for characters that can walk amongst us. But I want a character to look up to, not just a character to look beside.
Now, we know that Gods and Monsters announced their original slate. We've got a couple things added to that, like Clayface and the dynamic duo. What are you looking forward to the most out of the Gods and Monsters slate, and what do you think is going to be the sleeper hit?
Whew, great question. I'm looking forward to most, besides Superman, because I feel like that's the default. I am really excited for Woman of Tomorrow. Woman of Tomorrow is one of my favorite DC comics of all time. It's an 8-issue miniseries that encompasses Supergirl in a way that nothing else has as far as connecting to me. And it's a cosmic space opera, but with the actual take on the character that feels like it could take place. It's True Grit in space. It could be anything, but they went cosmic with it. So I feel like it's going to scratch the itch of wonder and awe, but not terrestrially, because we'll get that with Superman. So it's kind of this great 1-2 punch. And the casting of Patea Shonards, who is so slept on. The casting of Jason Momoa, who was born to play Lobo. Like, dude is as much Ryan Reynolds born to play Deadpool or Downey Jr. Like, it's going to be that thing where you're like, oh, wait, why is this taking this long? So to me, the Momoa's Lobo thing elevated my already number one to like even into the stratosphere. And I think the sleeper hit of what's been announced so far is either going to be Lanterns because of that below the line crew. Like the fact that they got Mundy and actually Damon Lindelof, who's the biggest comic fan I know below the line, working on a comic, but also Tom King, who's the guy at DC writing all of the craziest things that shouldn't work. Like Jenny Spark shouldn't be as good as it is. Strange Adventures shouldn't be as good as it is. So him tuning up a Lantern script, plus those guys knowing TV and crew, and Tom King doing overview stuff on all of DC means that's where they're putting their pocket aces. So I think that's the one that's going to be like, how is this Breaking Bad good?
Juju, you are the TikTok movie guy. I have to ask you, what is the front runner for your Oscar film of the year?
You know, right now, like it was a couple of front runners. I feel like the race has been kind of all over the place. There's been some that rose, some that fell, but right now I would say it's either out of Anora or The Brutalist. Really? I think The Brutalist has a really good shot. It's been kind of like sweeping up a lot of the Best Picture awards, but I think Anora now is like, you know, a lot of people felt that way when it was released, and I feel like it's starting to kind of pick up some more steam. So if I had to choose between the two, I'm a big Mikey Madison fan, so I'm gonna say Anora. Yeah, it's a great movie. 2025 is shaping up to be a great year for film. What are you most anticipating this year? Oh my gosh, like I hate to be like super duper cliche, but you know, I feel like with the superhero fatigue conversation being like a really big conversation in film and where cinema is going, I feel like there's something to be said about one, Fantastic Four, which is finally coming home, right, to Marvel Studios, and so seeing how that is done, I'm excited for that. But also Superman 2025. I was gonna call it Superman Legacy, but it's Superman. But it feels like a return to what we know superhero to be, like what that name means and what the name of Superman means. And I feel like this will be, in a way, a make or break year for DC because of that title, especially like in James Gunn we trust. So there's a lot of great things going for it. So I'm gonna say Superman for me right now.